All right, so in this video, we're going to go ahead and add a follower, add an additional cam, and then I'm going to show you actually how to animate your video, okay? So remember, what we actually just went over was how to change. This was my original Pear Cam, and if you notice, it had kind of segmented edge here, 3, even really technically 4, because there's this also straight segment here. And when we're going to be using one of the tools to assemble our cams to make sure it's functioning properly, we needed to make that whole current orange edge, we needed to make it one continuous surface. So what I did in that video was kind of create that using the spline tool. So here is the Pear Cam that we're going to use. If you notice, like if I click on this surface, it's one continuous surface all the way around like the edge. So let's go ahead and bring that in. But I'm also going to bring in a follower. So I'm going to bring in 2 parts. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the follower. I'm going to bring that in here. And then I'm also going to bring in, it was our Pear Cam, but the one that said assembly, and bring that in as well. Okay, green check, those are the only 2 I'm going to bring in. So remember, the first thing is we have to realize when we assemble is how we're actually going to build it. Now this follower, it has to kind of slide up and down through the guide or the top surface of the Automata box. So I'm going to be using this slider mate. So if I click on that, and if you notice kind of the icon shows, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. And I want to click on the top of this box, but I also, even more specifically, really want to click on that hole that goes all the way through. But I also would like to make sure that they are connected. So really it doesn't matter whether it's the center, that mate connector, or at the top, as long as it's along the axis of the hole. So click to make that stay. I'm going to zoom out. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over to our follower, and same thing. I'm going to not choose this bottom, but I'm going to go ahead and choose kind of the top, the long cylindrical portion. And it's fine if the mate connector is down there at the bottom, as long as, if you notice, again, the cylindrical part, the vertical cylindrical part, that's what's highlighted in orange. So I will click to make that stay. And if you notice, looks pretty good. Let's green check and check it out to make sure it functions. So ideally, again, this should slide up and down, right? And if I try to move my mouse in any other direction, it doesn't move. So far, so good. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and put our Pear Cam in our assembly. And to do that, if you think about it, again, we are going to be gluing our cams to our crankshaft. So I'm going to go ahead and use the fasten mate. And I'm going to zoom in to our axle. And I'm going to even click on, again, make sure the whole axle is orange. Click on the center mark. Okay. And then I'm going to go over here to our Pear Cam that I need. I'm going to zoom out to make sure that I'm selecting the whole. See there, now it's highlighted in orange. And then sure, it goes to the center of the cam. That's great. If you want it here, that's fine. We're going to have to adjust it anyways with an offset. Click to make it stay. Oh, went away. Don't worry, just zoom out. Now let's take a look what happens. So the side of that cam is now in the center. We want this cam to be underneath, directly aligned up. So let's kind of figure out how far we need that offset. And this is where we might have to play around a little bit. So we need an offset. And if you know the Z direction, based on our model, goes in the direction we want to move it. So we're going to change that Z direction. And remember, I'm estimating it because this whole length at the bottom within the opening is about 4 inches. So if I estimate it, that means it's 2 inches here. So I'm going to see if I move it an inch. Let's see what happens. So I type in 1 for the Z, click in the open space to see what happens. Wow, that was actually pretty impressive. Pretty close, really close. Let's see if I can do 1.1 and then click in that open space. Oh, a little too far. What if I do 1.05? I think it's still going to be a little too much. Whoops, not in that direction. Control Z, Control Z. There we go. Let's see, 1 point. I'm going to change that. Change it to 0.5. Click to make it stay. Still a little bit less. I'd make it 0.02. Click in the open space to kind of see it. And so far, so good. Actually, we still might even be able to go, maybe it's just 0.0, just a hundredth of an inch. Click in the open space. Yeah, that looks great. Looks like it lines up actually pretty perfectly. I'm gonna go ahead and click on the green check because that's the fasten that we want. And if we notice again, if it's fastened, when I rotate it, that Pear Cam should be moving too, which is great, right? But if you notice my Pear Cam's kind of going in that way, that's something we would need to adjust. Right now, for the purpose of this video, we're just going to focus on making the next constraint so that the follower is going to move with the motion of the cam properly, okay? So that's where we're going to use this tangent mate. Click on tangent mate. I'm going to click on that axle, and then the next part I need to actually click on. Let's see if I can see it. We might not be able to. I might have to move that up. There we go. Now I want to click on this bottom portion, just that bottom portion of that follower. Okay, and if you notice it did, it hit directly on the top of that cam. So click to make it stay. Now let's go ahead and let's rotate it and see what happens. Yeah, so now it goes up too as we rotate it. Awesome. And then there you go, it goes up. So now you would continue in adding the remainder of your cams, okay? Once you're done adding your cams and your followers, how do you animate it? It's really easy. The only thing you want to move is what I'm doing manually, which is this axle or the crankshaft, right? So guess what? Go to that revolute mate. So I'm going to find my revolute mate for my axle. Look, there it is, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and right click and I want to animate it, okay? When you click on animate, you don't want this playback time. You actually want it to be a continuous loop, which means you want it just to keep going, keep going, keep going. I don't want it to like start and stop at a certain point. So I'm going to hit loop and then I'm just going to hit play and let's see what happens. So if you notice now it's doing it automatically, which is great. So for your assignment, make sure you can use Screencastify to record this video. Or if you have a different method, that's fine too. But I would like you to see you run your Revolute Mate and animate it and record it as a short video to turn in.